Your crush is crushing on you. This is somebody that is kind of like, okay, I've sat here long enough and, I checked in with myself. I fed my fears for a while. I want to move forward in this. I want to take a leap of faith. Who's going to take action first? Who's going to say something? Who's going to do something? This person feels like they're getting very impatient in terms of like, you've dropped little hints and signs, they've dropped little hints and signs, and there's this energy of like, I just want to get you alone. I want to get to know you. I want to spend some time with you. I want to explore romance with you. So they're planning, they're plotting. There's like a specific event that they want to take you to, or, something where it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to have to sort of move in this sort of smooth energy, this kind of cool, calm, and collected energy. I need to get my bearings about me, but I don't want to mince words. I don't want to miss the moment or the opportunity. They might be preparing like a contingency plan though, in case, you're busy or you say no. Something where it feels like, because it's a mutual crush, it's sort of like, I think that we're both on the same page. I think we understand one another. I think we both like one another. I think we both want the same thing, but until I speak on that and you say yes, until I ask you out and you say yes, until I open up about these feelings that have developed and you're like, what do you know? Me too. Like, until that happens, it's sort of like, okay, I got to prepare myself for, you might not just be like running headfirst into this. You might not be like, yeah, great, never thought you'd asked, I'm available tomorrow. So this is something where it might have been kind of a prolonged period of time where there's been some flirtation, some suggestion between the two of you, something where fears might have kind of caused this person to sort of hold back, or kind of take almost like a secret admirer stance for a period of time, but that is no longer working for them. That's no longer satisfying for them. And so this is kind of like, okay, I'm ready to speak on that. I'm ready to be bold. I'm ready to bring that out in the open so that we can move beyond the environment within which we're interacting with one another up to this point in time, so that we can explore something more and get to know one another and crack open all this potential between the two of us. Yeah, we've got unexpected income. So this person's feelings deepen for you by the day. This is somebody that is like, oh, yeah, I would be so lucky to be the person that you choose, to have a relationship with. Romance with you would be very delightful. This person has imagined various scenarios. They thought of the pros and cons as far as, asking you out, presenting their case, kind of like leaning in a little bit deeper, addressing these feelings that have surfaced within. And there's a sense of kind of like, I don't want to be thwarted necessarily if you're just like, yeah, I'm busy. Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for that. That it's kind of like, okay, if there's a bit of rejection, they have to be prepared to kind of like step back into the friend zone, or kind of recalculate their plans or their strategy in some sort of way. But there's a sense of like relentlessness with this sort of like, okay, we're going to find a way to make this work. This is somebody that wants to respect your boundaries. If you give them a hard no, they're going to take that. They're not going to like pester you or be very insistent. But this is somebody that is kind of like, they almost feel that maybe the delay between the two of you has created all of this like palpable chemistry, all this rich potential between you. And so it may be something where it's like, yeah, to speak on that, it might almost kind of potentially sort of create a response within you or even within them of just kind of like surprise, like, wow, okay, I spoke my truth, now what? Or, oh, they've addressed this crush out in the open. I never thought that would happen. I thought I would always just need to, be in fantasy land and kind of thinking about what might happen. So what do I do now that this person is here, that they've asked me out, that it's kind of like, okay, let's take things to the next level. So this person is like readying themselves to not just sort of like, okay, let's go have a first date, or let's have like a first meeting or a first encounter, but it's almost like they're thinking about what the next date would be, what the next date after that would be like. When's the first time that they'd hold your hand? When's the first time that they would kiss you? They could be a very, intellectual or like a logical person. And so they're trying to map out these steps as best as they can, feeling that that might help to sort of boost their confidence to kind of push through this bubble of all this chemistry and potential that has developed between the two of you to really be able to capitalize on, what is possible and not just kind of linger for much longer within sort of the realm of what if. We also have change. So this is somebody that for some of you, this is like a friend that has caught feelings. And so there's a sense of kind of like, okay, we need to move forward with the understanding that like other people in the friend group, they're going to notice like, hey, is there something going on between the two of you? Hey, you're dating one another. Okay, that's different. That's something else. There's almost kind of like they don't want to keep this silent. They don't want to keep this hidden. This is not somebody that's just looking for a sneaky link or kind of like, yeah, let's just meet up on the side. Let's meet up and kind of just keep this to ourselves. It's like they want to go out with you. They want to be seen with you. They want to change other people's opinions as far as like whatever the dynamic is between the two of you currently. This might even be somebody that has been questioned already, sort of like other people have been like, hey, is there something going on between you and this person? And they've sort of brushed it off like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. But they're ready to kind of let the cat out of the bag. They're ready to, answer that question a little bit differently or have that be evidence of kind of like, yeah, we're seeing one another. Yeah, we went on a date. Yeah, we've explored something. So what? Like, you need to accept that. Like, that's just the way that it is right now. There is kind of a sense within this person of sort of like, okay, if this is friends and there's the exploration of something more, and it turns out that, we're better off as friends, can we go back into that friendly energy? Or is this something where, hurt feelings are kind of going to get in the way? It's going to interfere with the nature of what we have up to this point in time, but it feels very much worth the risk to this person to explore all that potential. We also have main female. So yeah, this is somebody that doesn't want to juggle you as an option. When they take that step towards you, when they open their mouth and speak, when they ask you out, when they approach you, it is with the intention of like, yeah, I want us to have something mutual. I want us to have something very exclusive. I don't just want to like add you to my roster. I don't want you to be just like somebody in my stable that when I'm bored or, on Tuesdays, like we're hanging out with one another. I don't want you to kind of feel that you are one of many or that you're competing with other people or that I'm putting you on the back burner because somebody else is more interesting. So this is somebody that it feels like, again, there's kind of like a longer strategy here as far as, if you're sort of uncertain or if you're not able to like connect necessarily right away or in a way that's consistent, like you both have your own lives, you have other things going on. Maybe you're not available this Friday to go out on a date, but you might be able to do something with them in a couple of weeks. Like they're trying not to get discouraged. They're trying to kind of just be very open and kind of like, okay, my calendar is clear. My energy is clear. My intention is directed solely towards you. So let's figure out a way to make this work. We also have wealthy man. So it feels like this is somebody that is going to go the extra mile to make sure that you are able to kind of move beyond sort of like the impression that you have of them so far. So if it's like a friend that you're able to, sort of hold on to that identity of what you've come to know about them so far, but then it's like there's these other aspects of them that you are totally unaware of, things that may be very different from what you've come to know so far, but in like a good way. This is somebody that, they may have a very kind of like unique love language. Gift giving may be their love language, compliments, affirmations of love. And so there's a sense of kind of like, okay, if we've just been buddies with one another, if we've just kind of like, kept it very platonic, kept it very casual, if there hasn't been very much kind of like outward or direct flirtation, it's sort of like, how do I, in a smooth way, kind of transition over into that energy of like, we're exchanging sweet nothings. Because it feels like the way this person is in relationships as a lover, as a romantic partner, like when their heart chakra's been activated, it's very different from kind of like the composed version of them that you know so far. Even if this person's very like free-spirited, very relaxed in your presence, there's like a level of tenderness with them that they only reveal to, special someone's like behind closed doors or again, it's this kind of energy of, you've kind of kept your boundaries or your distance from one another physically, like when you're out and about because you're friends, or because it's just kind of like a surface level connection. It's sort of like, okay, I want to scooch in closer, I want to move in closer, I want to be near to you, I want to be looking at you, with adoration in my eyes, as opposed to having to like veil that or hold that back in some sort of way. And there's a sense of almost like not wanting to move too quickly through that, because it may be so different from kind of what you're used to in terms of the dynamic. This is not somebody, it feels like, that just wants to like very casually kind of like, hey, why don't we go out on a date? Hey, we haven't had much luck in love with other people, so why don't we try? Why don't we explore? Like, they may approach in kind of like a nonchalant way, but there's definitely a sense of like a softer side, like a warmer side, like a dreamier side to this person, that they're trying to think and figure out, like, how do I let that be known? Is that going to be something that is so different from the version of me that you've come to like, you've come to appreciate, you've come to know up to this point in time, that you're sort of like, ooh, this wasn't what I expected. I think I'd rather go back to being friends. Like, they're thinking of that potential within you, that possible kind of response to them. So there is a little bit of kind of where you've triggered or activated sort of like a lack mentality within, but it's just kind of an energy of uncertainty. Like, they won't know until they test the waters. They won't know until they move towards you and the two of you are no longer kind of just, oh, we're friends. Oh, we don't really have a definition to what we are. And it's something where it's like, well, we're exploring this. We're going out on a date. We're exploring romance. I'm opening my heart to you, or I'm not trying to like close that off. Any kind of like feelings, the crush that has developed, it's kind of just like letting that flow between the two of you and being very open and encouraging that you will also feel motivated to let that flow from inside of you towards them as well. We have message. So this can be where they're asking you out very like directly through a text message, through a DM on social media. This is something as well where the nature of like your virtual communications, those are going to change. There's a sexy side to this person. There's a romantic side to this person, that they want to share with you. They want to express. This is not someone that wants to love bomb you. They don't want to come on too strong and have you be like, whoa, this is so different from the personality that I've, become comfortable with so far. Yeah, it's a mutual crush, but the reality of that, when this person fully kind of steps into that, okay, we're talking romance, this is how I romance people. There's a sense of almost kind of building to that slowly, letting that kind of be known very slowly, because it feels like they've developed feelings. They've thought about kind of the various scenarios of how things could work out, the rejections that they may face from you, but also kind of like if you accept them, and sort of what the next steps would be. This is something that, they're trying to focus on kind of the positive outcomes, the positive potential here, because the idea of, exchanging with you, having those loving words, even the idea of the word I love you feels rightly kind of placed or applied when it comes to you, when it comes to this situation, or rather what you can kind of become to one another when you move beyond pleasantries, when you move beyond the surface, when you move beyond just kind of like, no, we're friends, or, we're not really anything, we're kind of just side-eyeing each other, from across the room, or, we've got these like intense interactions, but then there's no follow through to anything more. It feels like this is somebody that, you may see in a very controlled environment, but like they want to text you after hours. They want to be the type of person where it's like, okay, I'm going to go to bed later than I anticipated because I'm up talking to you. Like, you're worth that, kind of like losing sleep in order to, just have like a few more minutes with you, have these romantic expressions with you. So they've thought about that, kind of like, okay, what would that be like? We end sort of our time with one another in that very controlled environment or sense, but then it's kind of like, after work or outside of the friend group, or just wherever it is that you encounter this person, what that would be like to let this other side of their personality out, more of a relaxed and free flowing energy, that there's a sense of like, I hope you like the way that I express affection. I hope you like my love language. I hope you like the way in which I give attention or dote on people, that I'm interested in. And the only way to know, like, if you do, is to explore that. I've also got great fortune. So again, the idea of like you saying yes, you opening up to them, the two of you moving beyond the threshold of what you've established so far with one another into that realm of like, okay, we're dating, and then potentially we become a couple, and then maybe it becomes something more than that. That is something that fills in with a lot of optimism. This is not somebody that is, fearful of commitment. This is not somebody that is sort of just like, yeah, I want to, just have a sexual connection with you. I'm just looking to hook up. I'm just looking for a situationship. This person is commitment ready. This person is like, dating to marry, dating for exclusivity. And maybe this might even be something where they kind of could have been like, I'm just keeping my options open. Nothing has really kind of sparked my fancy up to this point in time. They've looked in all other kind of ways or aspects of their life, or maybe we're just sort of avoiding, long-term commitment with other people in like the aftermath of a breakup. But now their sights are set on you, and it's kind of like, okay, if I were to settle down, if I were to get into a long-term connection, you're the type of person that I want to do that with. I'm ready to build something more exclusive, more, kind of direct, more one-on-one, more monogamous, and you're the person that so far in what we have with one another feels right, feels in alignment within me, to where it's not just kind of a pipe dream, but there's actual potential to move in that direction of like, yeah, if these instincts are right, if this mutual crush energy can be, harnessed into something where getting to know one another, spending time with one another, dating, having those exchanges, letting this other kind of romantic side of both of you be known or put out on the table, like all of that can be a recipe for success that this person thinks of as like, that would be wonderful. That would be absolutely delightful. Yeah, I'd like to be your boyfriend. I'd like to be your fiance. I'd like to be your husband. I'd like to be your plus one. I'd like to be your person. We also have distant horizons. So again, this is kind of like mutual crush. These kind of interests, this feeling has been developing for a while. But this is somebody that's like, I don't want to wait. I don't need more time to think. It's almost somebody that like when you're in their presence, they have a hard time holding back at this point where it's kind of like, I can't go on like this. I can't just like keep my feelings or my interest inside. I can't keep this bottled up. They see you as almost like the ship that has come in for them. They are now in a place in their life, or you've kind of caused them to do an about face in terms of like, they may have just been like, I'm looking for connection, looking for partnership, looking to date. If I meet someone interesting, then I'll go for it. And they were kind of just scanning the horizon, and now there's something with you. Now they're alert to this. Now they're awakened to this. Now they're feeling something in this regard, where it's kind of like, I want to make a move. I want to speak on this. We can't just keep standing here in this place of being at like full capacity of like, okay, I like you, you like me. It's so well known, but we've not said this out loud. Someone's got to do something. So it's gonna be me, basically. I'm gonna be the one to speak on this. Do you want to go out with me? Do you want to get together? Do you want to hang out? Or for some, this might even be somebody that's like, I really like you. I think I'm developing feelings for you. And, I don't know what to do about that. They might even kind of like pose it as a question and sort of pass the ball back to you. Like, I don't know what we should do about this. And that could be kind of a buffer or an insulator in terms of like, if they're a little fearful of rejection, sort of like, okay, well, if you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, you're imagining it, I don't feel that way about you, or, I like you just as a friend, then it's kind of like, okay, they can sort of tuck their tail between their legs and kind of go lick their wounds elsewhere. But there is a sense of sort of like they need to know. They need to know if there's a possibility here. They need to know if there's potential. They need to know if you see a future in this situation, because it's becoming too like hard to resist you. When they're in your presence, you are very hard to resist. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. Like or comment to claim these energies. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more content that I put out here. Don't forget to hit the bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. And if you would like to book a personal reading with me, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.